Welcome AIS artists. Today we are going to be working one more time with watercolors and learning yet another technique. So far we have worked with monochromatic watercolors where we just use one watercolor and worked on how to create a variety of that color by just adding water. Next, we learned about glazing, where we added another color on top of an already dried watercolor. Today, we're going to work with wet in wet. So for that, we are going to work with a small sheet of watercolor paper. And on this paper, of course, you're going to put your name, your teacher's name, and where you're sitting. So please do that. And then we're going to first create with a Sharpie, a spiral. We're going to be creating a Thanksgiving gratitude spiral as I get really close to my camera here. So we're going to be creating a piece of work like this. We're going to be thinking about what we are thankful for. But today we are going to first create our spiral and then do our watercolors. So we're going to create a spiral and then put watercolor on top. We are also going to learn about a relationship of colors. So we know, hopefully, your primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. You know the secondary colors are created by adding or mixing the two primary colors. So our secondary colors are orange, violet, and green. Today, I want you to work, since we're working wet and wet, and when you do wet and wet, you can create mud or brown very easily. And we don't want to create that. We want to create a beautiful wet and wet piece. So we're going to think about using analogous colors. Analogous colors are colors that touch each other on the color wheel. So as you're watching my wet and wet demonstration, everybody should have a color wheel on their table, either like this or a big circle. And when we actually start working with our wet and wet technique, you're going to think about the colors that touch each other on the color wheel. And interesting enough, your watercolors are kind of set up in the same way. So again, we're not going to use black or brown, but you can see that the colors in your palettes are set up as a rainbow, which are also analogous colors. So you're going to either look at which colors you're going to use, make sure that they touch each other. So you have a choice of using the warm colors, which all touch each other, the cool colors, which all touch each other, or you can go kind of in the middle where you're going to use orange, yellow, and green, or you can use yellow, green, and blue. Okay, so you're going to again use analogous colors, colors that touch each other on the color wheel. And we're going to work in a wet and wet environment. So let me tilt my camera down so you can kind of see what wet and wet looks like. So you should have your square. Actually, I got to see where we are here. Here we go. You should have your tray. Since we're working wet and wet, I didn't want the table too wet. And on this paper, again, you're going to put your name, your teacher's name, and where you're sitting. Okay, really important. Then of course you're going to work on the other side. So we're first going to create our spiral, our Thanksgiving spiral. So with a Sharpie, or you can certainly use a pencil, you're going to start in the middle and just circle around. We want to use all of the space, an element of art, and you can kind of go over it a little bit and then eventually just have a tail. Okay, we're not going to write any words yet. We're going to next go into our wet and wet demonstration. So everybody should have a container of water, and I've given you the big brushes. You're going to decide on what analogous colors you're going to choose. Okay, I'm going to go with the cool colors. So these are dry, so we're going to have to activate them. So remember, I would put water, a dab of water in each of the three. So you're going to use 3 colors. You could just use 2. But put water in each of the colors you're going to use and then activate at least one of them. So I'm going to start with my green, and again, I'm massaging that green down. So I'm going to let that soak. And while I'm doing that, so I just wanted to get water so that I could start activating our watercolor. But on our watercolor paper, we're going to work wet with wet paint. So in order to do that, we have to put water on our watercolor paper. So with this nice big brush, I'm able to get a lot of water on our watercolor paper. Now, unlike what we did at the beginning when we worked monochromatically, we went dark to light. You could do that, but you'll notice since your paper is wet that the watercolor is going to move. So our watercolor is going to move. I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to pick up another color. So now I'm picking up my blue. So I started with green and now I'm going to pick up the blue. And I'm going to put it down, and you can kind of see that it's going to run and mix. We don't really want to mix our colors. You want it to just do it naturally. So I'm not trying to push it around because I don't want just one color. My paper is really, really wet. Now, if I was to pick yellow as my last analogous color, I'd want to make sure my brush is really, really clean, because I don't want to muddy my color. But I'm going to go with purple. So I'm going to pick up some purple and I'm going to lay the purple down on the rest of the paper. So please don't paint the tray. This is not a painting the tray. Now I know some paint will get on the tray, but we're not painting our tray. So I am completed. Again, it doesn't take that long to do. So with my very wet piece, I am now going to put that on the drying. Yeah, we're going to try and see if they'll fit on the drying rack. Otherwise, we'll put them on the table in the computer room. So this is going to be my gratitude spiral, which tomorrow it will be dry. So then we will add our words, and I'll go over how we're going to do that. If there is time, you're going to make 2 little squares. Sorry about my hand there. So you're going to create 2 squares, one that I can keep and put up on the bulletin boards, and one that you can take home. So again, we're going to work on being thankful. What are you grateful for in this day and age, 2020? So have fun enjoying working with our new technique, Wet and Wet, and working with analogous colors, colors that touch each other on the color wheel.